It all started on a Tuesday, an unremarkable day that would soon become the dividing line between the life Alara knew and the one that was waiting for her. The first postcard arrived tucked between a phone bill and a pizza coupon. It was unassuming, a standard glossy photograph of a quaint, sun-drenched town square. A cobblestone plaza, a gurgling stone fountain in the center, and storefronts painted in cheerful pastel colors. The sky was an impossible, cloudless blue. On the back, written in a neat, looping script, were just 3 words: "Wish you were here." There was no sender's name, no return address. The postmark, however, was what first pricked her curiosity. It was a single, smudged word: penumbra. Alara, a graphic designer who spent her days crafting logic and order from digital chaos, was intrigued. She Googled penumbra. The search engine offered her definitions of partial shadows and astronomical phenomena. She tried adding town, city, and village to her search queries. Nothing. Not a single result pointed to a place on Earth named Penumbra. She checked online maps, satellite imagery, and even delved into obscure historical archives. The town from the postcard simply didn't exist. She dismissed it as a quirky piece of junk mail, perhaps a clever marketing gimmick for a new fantasy novel or a video game. She pinned it to her corkboard, a splash of color amid her work reminders, and forgot about it. A week later, the second postcard came. This time, it was a picture of a cozy-looking bookstore, its windows filled with leather-bound volumes. The name, "The Final Chapter," was painted in gold leaf on the swinging wooden sign. The message on the back was different. "The coffee at the corner cafe is just how you like it." A chill, unrelated to the autumn breeze outside, traced a path down her spine. She was notoriously particular about her coffee: a splash of oat milk, no sugar, a specific dark roast. How could a stranger know that? The postmark was the same: penumbra. Now, it felt less like a gimmick and more like a riddle meant just for her. The postcards kept coming, once a week, every Tuesday, each a new window into this phantom town. One showed a winding path through a dense, emerald-green forest with the message: "The trails are waiting for your morning run." Alara had just started jogging again. Another depicted a small, single-screen cinema called the Dreamland, its marquee blank. The note read, "They're showing your favorite film tonight." Her favorite film was an obscure French noir from the 1960s, something she rarely mentioned to anyone. The details were too specific, too personal. It was as if someone was plucking thoughts directly from her mind and mailing them back to her. The suspense was a slow-burning fire in her gut. Who was sending these? And how did they know her so intimately? The final postcard was the one that broke her. It was a photograph of a charming, 2-story house with a wraparound porch and a garden blooming with lilies, her favorite flower. It was the dream house she had sketched in a notebook years ago, a private fantasy she had never shown a soul. The message on the back was a single, haunting question: "Aren't you tired of waiting?" That was it. The mystery had become an unbearable weight. She couldn't work, she couldn't sleep. The town of Penumbra, non-existent as it was, called to her with an insistence she could no longer ignore. She had to find it. Her preparation was methodical, a stark contrast to the madness of her quest. She spread the postcards across her dining table, treating them like a detective's evidence board. There were clues, she was sure of it. The architectural style of the buildings suggested a certain region, perhaps a secluded part of New England or the Pacific Northwest. The flora in the photos, the specific types of pine trees and ferns, pointed towards a temperate, coastal climate. The biggest clue, however, was the postmark itself. While smudged, she noticed a faint sequence of numbers beneath the word penumbra on the most recent postcard. It wasn't a standard zip code. After hours of cross-referencing postal distribution codes and defunct mail routes, she found a potential match: an old, decommissioned mail-sorting hub that serviced a remote, sparsely populated stretch of coastline several hundred miles north. It was a long shot, a thread of logic stretched taut over a chasm of improbability, but it was all she had. She packed a bag for a week, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. She told her boss she was taking an emergency leave of absence, offering a vague explanation about a family matter. What could she say? That she was chasing a ghost town from a series of psychic postcards? She loaded her car with maps, a compass, extra food, and water, feeling like an explorer from a bygone era venturing into uncharted territory. The drive itself felt surreal. As she left the familiar grid of the city behind, the highways gave way to winding country roads. Cell service flickered and died. The world outside her windshield grew wilder, the trees taller, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. She followed the old paper maps, navigating by landmarks and the position of the sun. After 2 days of driving, she reached the region she had identified. It was even more isolated than she had imagined. Following the ghost of the decommissioned mail route, she eventually found a narrow, unpaved road almost completely swallowed by the forest. It wasn't on any of her maps. A weathered, hand-carved wooden sign, half hidden by overgrown ivy, pointed down the path. It read, Penumbra. Her breath caught in her throat. It was real. The town was real. Her car bumped and jolted down the dirt track for what felt like an eternity, the forest canopy so thick it created a perpetual twilight. And then, the trees parted. It was exactly like the postcards. The cobblestone plaza, the gurgling fountain, the pastel storefronts. A profound sense of unreality washed over her. She had stepped out of her world and into a photograph. She parked her car and walked into the town square, her footsteps echoing in the strange quiet. People milled about, chatting, shopping, living their lives. But as they turned to look at her, the new arrival, a wave of shock, cold and sharp, pierced through Alara. Every single person she saw had a familiar face. The man sipping coffee at the corner cafe was her mailman, but with kinder eyes. The woman arranging books in the window of the final chapter was her prickly downstairs neighbor, now smiling serenely. It was a town of doppelgängers. Her doppelgängers. Every person she had ever known, from close friends and family to the barista she saw once a week, was here, but subtly different, living out a peaceful, idealized version of their life. Her heart hammered against her chest, a wild bird trapped in a cage. She backed away slowly, her mind struggling to process the impossible sight. She stumbled backward, bumping into someone. "Oh, excuse me," a voice said. A voice that was hers, but not. Alara turned around and found herself staring into her own eyes. The woman looked just like her, from the stray curl of hair that always escaped her ponytail to the small scar above her left eyebrow. But this woman's expression was one of calm contentment, a look Alara hadn't seen in her own mirror in years. This doppelganger was dressed in the comfortable, practical clothes of a gardener, her hands smudged with dirt. She was holding a basket of fresh lilies. She smiled, a warm, genuine smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I've been waiting for you," the other Alara said, her voice a perfect echo of her own. "We all have." Before Alara could scream, before she could run, her doppelganger leaned in closer, her smile tightening just a fraction. "It's so good to finally be complete," she whispered. "Now the question is, which one of us gets to leave?" Find out how this story ends. Like, share, and subscribe for more enigmatic mysteries.